The celestial radars have already marked you, chosen one. As dark plans rain down like missiles, the divine center whispers a single code name. You, the shield of your soul, has become an earth-shaking defense system. Every treacherous shot strikes your light and turns to ashes. Now take a deep breath, lock your viewfinder on the divine targets, and don't turn off this broadcast that is falling on your screen. Write 444 in the comments immediately, because what you are about to hear will activate the divine defense within you at full power. Your vibrations will stop all the insidious missiles in the universe while they are still in the air. Beloved, the curtain that kept their schemes in velvet darkness is about to split straight down the middle, and the spotlight will burn hotter than noonday desert sun on every secret they stitched together behind your back. The hush they counted on has snapped in two. Once trusted lips have broken their pact, and every jealous dart they launched from the safety of closed chambers is on its way back to pierce their own disguises. They will surface when routine feels harmless, eyes wide, soul trembling, unable to hide the quake of conscience now rattling their composure. The glow you carry dissolved their masks long before they realized it. In corridors where your name was a hissed curse, courage finally failed them. They sat through meetings where slander flowed like cheap wine, yet the moment your unflinching presence touched the room, the poison curdled on their tongues. Now every warped tale they spun will march out into daylight, stripped of charm and pretense. Those pricks of dread you felt, temperature dips, hairs rising for no visible reason, were mile markers on an inner map of warning. While you tilled the soil of personal growth, they dug trenches of sabotage. Your triumphs, promotions, accolades, celebrations were twisted into proof of imagined arrogance. Digital breadcrumbs remain, edited images, clipped quotes, group chats steeped in envy. They thought delete buttons would bury the evidence. Providence preserved every byte. To justify their spite, they painted you with motives you never imagined. In their private mythology, your climb spelled their collapse, so they crowned you villain to excuse each underhanded blow. Expose that lie, and their campaign disintegrates like paper in rain. Nothing remains but the naked truth of an unprovoked assault on authentic light. Soon, the prime mover steps into view. Calendars, call logs, and late-night strategy threads will spotlight the director who choreographed each rumor. That architect sensed your rising star before it cleared the horizon and launched first strikes, turning casual allies into pawns on a rigged chessboard. Face-to-face conflict was too risky. They preferred needle pricks of innuendo. Soft-spoken doubts here, sidelong glances there, secret gatherings to magnify your rare missteps. They refreshed your feeds with feverish anticipation, hunting any crack to widen. One stumble, they broadcast it as proof you are hollow inside. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom. For you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. Beloved, picture a dusty old curtain in a storefront window, sun-bleached, threadbare, clinging to its rod for dear life. One tug, and that rag slides aside, flooding the shop with morning light that refuses to be argued with. That's what your truth is about to do. Pull the drape, let the radiance in, and leave every cobweb of deception scrambling for cover. Picture a lone seed cracked open in a junkyard of rusty lies. What should have died in that heap is now pushing up through concrete, splitting the slab without breaking a sweat. Family, that seed is you. The circus of crooked mirrors that once tried to box you in has been hauled off like yesterday's trash, and every sticky label the critics slapped on your soul just slid right off in the rain of God's favor. They called you too much on Monday and not enough by Tuesday. They cycled through masks faster than a discount costume shop the week before Halloween, praying you'd stumble into one of their traps. But you kept walking like a saint's procession, steady, sure, eyes fixed on the author of your story. You didn't brawl in their mud pit. You didn't trade your dignity for their drama. You let patience do the heavy lifting. And now the house of cards that held their gossip together has folded flatter than a diner napkin after Sunday brunch. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Imagine a weather-beaten lighthouse perched on a cliff where two oceans meet. Waves slam against its stone, storms roar, gulls swirl in panicked circles, yet the lamp inside keeps turning, pouring gold across the darkness for every sailor who glances up. Friend, that lighthouse is the imprint of heaven on the inside, the radiant core that was branded into the spirit long before calendars kept time, long before whispering critics tried to rename what the Creator already called good. Storm after storm has slammed against that core. Labels like too much, too little, off-brand, out of step, hit it like sea spray, but none of them seeped through the masonry. The lamp kept turning, the oil never ran dry, and the beam kept searching the horizon for hearts ready to come home. See, there's a difference between labels and legacy. Labels are index cards slapped on by folks who barely know their own zip code in the kingdom. Legacy is the covenant signature God inked in eternal ink. Labels peel off in the first hard rain. Legacy digs its roots deep and drinks from rivers that never go bankrupt. While naysayers hold emergency meetings to rewrite the script, switching from too loud on Monday to too quiet by Friday, the manuscript of heaven sits unedited on the author's desk, stamped final, not open for redline notes. That manuscript calls what's inside priceless, necessary, custom-made, and it's still the draft of record long after gossip blogs go offline. Now, those same voices might gather like thunderheads, threatening to drown hope in sideways rain. But a seasoned sailor knows a cloudburst can't sink a lighthouse. The rocks underfoot aren't moving, and neither is the call. And let's be real. Some folks rely on turbulence to mask their own confusion. They crank up the volume on criticism so no one hears the rattle in their own empty cupboards. If a soul can keep eyes locked on the lamp instead of the lightning, that confusion never migrates inward. Confidence stays anchored, not in personal ego. That hot air balloon pops quick, but in the covenant promise that God authored a good work and isn't in the habit of abandoning construction sites mid-foundation. Think back on every season where expectations shifted like sand. Be softer, be sharper, smile more, smile less. Those shifting commands were never about improvement. They were camouflage for insecurity. People sometimes hurl contradictions, hoping to watch a calling collapse under the weight of impossible advice. Yet the assignment kept standing, kept breathing, kept multiplying even when resources looked thin, because heaven underwrites what heaven originates. A bank never worries about cash flow when the vault doors swing on a heavenly hinge. Here's the truth. The reflection stamped on a soul by the architect of galaxies isn't subject to market correction. It doesn't sway with public opinion polls, doesn't devalue during recession, doesn't warp when spotlights glare. That reflection survived childhood misunderstandings, office politics, broken promises, and late-night interrogations that asked, "Who do you think you are?" The answer was always bigger than an elevator pitch. It was royal blood, disguised in street clothes, light wrapped in clay. The Almighty's signature, walking around disguised as an ordinary resume. So what now? Because revelation always demands response. The clock on self-doubt just struck zero. The exit lights on shame just flickered on. And the production crew that staged this carnival of comparison is rolling up wires and heading for the loading dock. It's quiet backstage, too quiet for those who thrived on drama. That silence isn't emptiness, it's the hush before a new movement lifts off. God didn't preserve through blazing trial merely to settle the score with small thinkers. Preservation was preparation, not for revenge tours, but for restoration projects that require a steady hand and a healed heart. Consider the arenas about to shift. Conference rooms where policies once favored loud egos, now hungry for authentic wisdom. Living rooms where generational tension knotted like fishing line, now opening for conversations laced with grace. Sanctuaries where vision dried up, now stretching canvas for fresh paint. The microphone of credibility that suffering forged isn't for solo performances, it's for symphonies of uplift. Every bruise collected in the press room of adversity becomes ink for new charter documents that protect the next voice coming up the ladder. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. Someone will ask, where did this authority come from? They'll expect a pedigree studded with Ivy League badges or celebrity endorsements, but the answer is simpler. Authority grew in the greenhouse of obedience. It sprouted while dusting off someone else's trophy shelf, listening for God in fluorescent hallways, forgiving before apologies arrived. It matured each time ridicule tried to steamroll identity and failed. Now that authority is fruit ripe on the vine, ready to feed hungry hearts who never knew freedom tasted this sweet. There'll be temptation to replay the blooper reel of past offenses, to host highlight shows of who said what. Resist it like day-old coffee. Spilling energy on rehashing wrongs is like watering weeds and hoping for roses. Instead, aim the spotlight forward. Build policies that protect the quiet contributors who rarely make headlines. Draft mission statements that celebrate integrity over influence. Archive the gossip as case law for heaven's court. A record of how grace outsmarted sabotage, then lock the drawer and keep moving. Nobody said reconstruction is effortless. Blueprints for culture change can feel like translating blue flame hieroglyphs at midnight. Yet the same voice that spoke universe into being still whispers tactical instructions. Hire this person, drop that meeting, fund this outreach, bless that critic with surprising kindness. Those nudges carry more weight than any corporate handbook. Follow them and watch dead soil sprout fields of possibility. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Meanwhile, critics may re-emerge, wearing new hats, testing new angles. Let them. A lighthouse doesn't panic when fresh storms form. It just keeps rotating. Every new surge of opinion crashes into the same rock-solid assurance. Identity sealed in covenant can't be foreclosed by committee vote. Eventually, even the loudest doubter wanders off in search of softer targets. And what of the ones who started the smear? If they repent, greet them with honest grace, firm on boundaries, soft on ego strokes. Forgiveness isn't lax, it's strategic mercy that frees space in the heart for pioneer work. If they remain stubborn, leave them to their echo chambers. Time has a way of draining the batteries on slander. Step into boardrooms with shoulders squared and a smile that says, "This seat was already mine in heaven's seating chart." Walk into family gatherings carrying peace like an umbrella, big enough to shade cousins still wrestling with shadows. Stand behind pulpits, literal or digital, and preach sermons your scars wrote, laced with humor, humility, and holy audacity. Policies will change, hearts will heal, and vision will catch fire. Remember, the lighthouse never brags about surviving storms. It just does its job. Likewise, the assignment isn't to call a press conference about resilience, but to leverage resilience into renewal. Rebuild systems so others won't whirl through the same grinder. Write training manuals that replace gossip circles with feedback pathways. Establish scholarships that turn marginalized voices into published authors. Mentor the next generation so their footing is firm before critics even zero in. By the time sunset kisses the horizon on this chapter, testimonies will outnumber trials. The very platforms once used to broadcast false narratives will stream stories of transformation. And every time a rumor flickers, a spotlight of truth will outshine it so brightly the darkness won't even remember its own plot. Hold that head high, not in arrogance, but in assurance. The glow inside was set on a dimmer switch at first so it wouldn't blind the room, but God just reached over and turned it up. Feel the warmth. That's legacy running on full power, and there's still plenty of oil. And here's the victory shout. The collapse of their funhouse isn't just your personal win, it's a broadcast signal for every onlooker hungry for truth. Your composure under fire has become a living sermon, louder than any microphone the enemy tried to steal. Policy in the boardroom will bend toward integrity after watching your endurance. Dinner table grudges will thaw when relatives recall how you answered slander with a still, small kindness. Pulpits will preach unity because your example proved that love can outlast the longest smear campaign. You're not just the survivor of a smear, you're the architect of new harmony. God didn't walk you through the furnace so you could throw shade. He preserved you so you could throw light. So keep planting gardens where they scorch the ground. Keep writing destiny where they tried to scribble doubt. Your true reflection is shining, unbroken, and uncontested, and it's lighting the way for anyone ready to trade counterfeit mirrors for the face of undeniable grace. Let's talk plain. Folks threw every stone they could dig up, lies, twisted screenshots, whispered half-truths, but you carried on, watering your seed, minding your harvest. While they wasted hours scripting your downfall, the Lord was scripting your comeback. The same crowd that rolled their eyes when you praised Him will soon be rubbing those eyes in disbelief when they see how high He's lifting you. Here's why their drama never landed. You've got a built-in compass called discernment, and it started buzzing the minute the atmosphere got funny. That chill on your arms in the boardroom, that tug in your gut at the family cookout, those were Holy Ghost alerts saying, "Child, don't drink that poison tea." You listened, you pivoted, and heaven wrote it all down. Now, the truth train is pulling into the station, and it's loud enough to rattle every loose bolt of their scheme. Think of a ledger nobody can doctor. Think of chat logs no delete key can erase. Heaven's cloud backup holds receipts nobody saw coming. Screenshots will surface, secret audio will leak, and the spin cycle will shut off because there's no more electricity left in their story. Picture a single mustard seed drifting into a stretch of concrete. So small, it's hardly noticed, yet packed with life ordained by heaven. Rain seeps through hairline cracks, sunlight warms that hidden kernel, and against every odd a green shoot rises, splitting the pavement that tried to lock it underneath. Beloved, you are that holy sprout. God shielded your seed through storms and foot traffic, not so you could gloat over broken cement, but so you could grow tall enough to shade the very people who once stepped on you. Now hear this in the cadence of a front porch Sunday message. The season of embarrassing your enemies is a footnote, not the headline. The Almighty didn't shepherd you through heat waves and frost to give you a petty victory lap. He preserved you so you could hand out cool water when scorched hearts start fainting in the noonday sun. Yes, their smear campaign sputtered out like damp fireworks, but the real story is what happens next. Your roots will push deeper, your branches will widen, and whole families will find rest beneath the canopy of your testimony. See, when the gossip mill churned, heaven was minting you a stamp of authenticity. Every lie they lobbed became another brick for the platform you're about to stand on. While they rehearsed rumors, the Lord was rehearsing restoration. The boardroom table where they planned your downfall will become the drafting desk for new workplace policies rooted in integrity, inclusion, and honest pay. The family dinner they turned into a battlefield will be the very place you now set out reconciliation, bread, and laughter wine. The church committee that whispered your name in cynicism will start quoting your journey as proof that God still lifts the meek and humbles the proud. Don't misunderstand, justice is coming, but it wears different clothes than revenge. The Father is dressing you in a coat of many colors, resolve woven with mercy, wisdom stitched with compassion, authority hemmed with humility. That garment marks you as the elder sibling in a household that still includes your critics. The same brothers and sisters who sold you out will need grain when famine hits their fields, and you'll have barns full because you refuse to let bitterness dry up your soil. It goes deeper. Heaven is handing you what I call a kingdom microphone. This isn't a handheld device. It's a resonance that follows you into every setting. Speak up in the supervisor's meeting, and confusion settles into clear direction. Offer counsel in a living room, and generational feuds lay down their weapons. Share insight from the pulpit, and weary saints trade their ashes for fresh oil. Your story, refined by fire, rings truer than any rumor they circulated. Folks listen because they watched you survive the furnace without smelling like smoke. They trust you because the chains they forged couldn't bruise your praise. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of his divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as his mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. Some will still wait for you to swing back. They expect a scorched earth reply, because that's the only rhythm they understand. But you'll answer with fruit, not fury. When they lean in for retaliation, you'll lean in with restoration plans, scholarships for the students they overlooked, housing initiatives for the neighbors they displaced, mentorship programs for the employees they underpaid. Why? Because King Jesus didn't just empty the tomb to wave an "I told you so" banner. He walked out to breathe peace on the very disciples who abandoned him. And let's clarify motive. This isn't about earning sainthood points. It's about obeying a spirit who knows that loving your enemies detoxes your bloodstream from the venom they injected. Forgiveness doesn't shrink their wrongdoing. It shrinks their control over your bloodstream and your brainstorming sessions. Every time you bless someone who tried to curse you, you widen the pipeline of divine ideas flowing into your life. Strategies for business, melodies for worship, blueprints for nonprofits. They all ride on the current of a heart kept unclogged by mercy. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. You'll feel echoes of the old wound when their faces appear at your table. Yet those echoes are cues, not stop signs. They remind you to lean on grace instead of grievance. Think of it like physical therapy after surgery. Stretching scar tissue stings, but it restores full range of motion. Your soul is headed for full mobility. No limp of resentment, no hitch of suspicion. When you hug them, heaven high-fives you. When you pray for them, strongholds crumble. In unseen places you'll never visit, but will one day benefit from. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Remember the mustard seed that split the sidewalk? Its roots keep pressing, gradually unseating slabs of concrete far beyond the first crack. In the same way, your decision to bless, rather than blast, will ripple past this month's headlines. 20 years from now, leaders you influenced will reference your grace as a tipping point that changed company culture. Grandchildren not yet born will inherit neighborhoods stabilized by the outreach you birthed from that very microphone of credibility. So here's the altar call, seasoned with everyday language. Step into your bigger mandate. The docket of heaven reads, Architect of renewal, not petty plaintiff. Draft policies that outlast rumor cycles. Write songs that drown out slander. Coach teams that transform office politics into office purpose. The smear campaign was just fertilizer, smelly, unsettling, but necessary for the bloom God is unveiling. You're not just living through chapter 12, you're co-authoring chapter 13, written in thick, hope-saturated ink. Lift your head, straighten those shoulders. The courtroom of public opinion might still buzz, but the only verdict that matters already came down from the judge who hung every star in place. This one is approved, appointed, and anointed. Case closed. Sentence of blessing upheld. Now go plant orchards where they threw stones, build bridges over the trenches they dug, and watch whole cities trade despair for destiny because you decided to bless back bigger than they ever imagined. So, what's next? First, stand tall in gracious authority. Don't chase every rumor. Let the facts walk in on their own 2 feet. Second, keep sowing kindness. It's the crop the enemy can't counterfeit. Third, prepare your testimony. folks who once side-eyed your testimony will now ask for your counsel. And fourth, expect increase. God loves to reimburse his children with interest for every tear they sowed in private. Friend, the table is turning because the hands of the master carpenter just flipped it. Those who dealt from the bottom of the deck are suddenly staring at an open sky. No more roof to hide under. You, however, are stepping onto a platform built from their discarded planks, rising clean above the commotion. Remember this: a diamond doesn't argue with the dirt it was buried in. It just keeps shining. Your glow was never up for debate, and no funhouse mirror can distort what heaven handcrafted. Walk forward, shoulders back, smile soft, because the script is yours now, and the ink is still wet with promise.